I'm Caden, here with my brother,
Cal.
and you're watching Eating W's.
Eat the W.
That's a W. Let's eat one. Let's eat one. That's a W.
On today's episode of Eating W's, we have our NFL Week 2 preview. But before we jump into those games, just a quick update on our head-to-head pick'ems game. So Callan started off a little rough with the NFL 2022 season, and I started off decent, nothing crazy good, but comparatively pretty damn good.
You hit both your lock and your upset.
I hit my lock and my upset, and Callan hit neither, putting us at a score of me with 12 and Callan with a big old 4. So, Brett Favre, there you go.
On the comeback trail already.
On the comeback trail, there you go, the comeback king. So now we will jump into our Week 2 predictions. So starting off with the Thursday night game, we have the Chargers heading to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs, and Cal and I both have the Chiefs in this one. And before we start talking about that, actually, I forgot to mention, we are now not going to talk about every single game. We're going to cut probably 5 or 6 out each week, games that just don't really matter or that are pretty obvious who's going to win. So just a quick update on that. Sorry if we don't talk about your favorite team, but we'll still pop up the rest of the picks at the end to make sure that you see all of the picks. But starting off with the Chargers and Chiefs, Cal and I both have the Chiefs in this one. And to me, it's just the AFC West has gone through a lot of change, but in my eyes, it's still pretty obvious who the top team is, especially the way they just absolutely destroyed the Cardinals, which I'm not saying the Cardinals played overly well, but it was a slobber knocker from the beginning. They really gave Arizona no chance. And the Chargers didn't look great against the Raiders. They did pick up the win, but I didn't think they looked great. So the Chiefs pick up a win for me here.
The key here for me is that the Chargers are probably going to be without Keenan Allen, who had a hamstring injury and left the game on Sunday. And those hamstring injuries, those are tough to deal with. And on a short week, it's going to be hard for him to come back from that. And I think that's going to be a big key, missing your number one wide receiver against the Chiefs.
And this will be the first game that is only on Amazon Prime Video. It will not be on any TV, only on Prime Video, so keep that in mind. Moving on to the next game, we have the Washington Commanders heading to Detroit to take on the Lions, and a split here. I have the Lions in this one, and Callan has the Commanders.
Yeah, I think that the Lions still just need to learn how to win. They haven't quite figured it out yet. Carson Wentz looked actually pretty good with his 4-touchdown performance against the Jaguars last week. So I have the Commanders pulling out another narrow victory here.
Carson Wentz looking good. That's kaboom. That's crazy to think about. This is ever since 2018 when he really went downhill fast. But I got the Lions here because I kind of talked about it last week where I didn't pick them last week. I picked the Eagles because I needed them to prove themselves to me a little bit just in my head. And I really think they did. Now, it was a lot of just fourth quarter heroics, but they almost came back and beat the Eagles, which is something they do pretty often. And I think that the Eagles are a much better team than the Commanders. So, adding to the equation there, I think that the Lions will end up beating the Commanders. Moving on, next up we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers heading to New Orleans to take on the Saints. And we agree here, Cal and I both have the Saints. Now, I know that's kind of funny to say considering the Saints didn't look great against the Falcons, and then the Bucs just absolutely picked apart the Dallas Cowboys. But I still have a lot of confidence in the Saints. That defense is just really stellar, and the Saints have beat the Bucs all 4 games of the Tom Brady era in the regular season. Tom Brady, of course, beat him in the playoffs that one year. But in the regular season, they are undefeated against the Bucs, so I think they keep it going.
And that's the key there for me, is that until they can prove that they can beat the Saints in the regular season, you got to keep going with New Orleans, who just seems to have Brady's number during the regular season.
Brady struggles against that defense, to say the least. So next up, we have the Dolphins heading to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Cal and I both have the Ravens in this one, and I actually have them as my lock. Now, the Ravens destroyed the Jets, which isn't saying a ton, especially considering they had Joe Flacco. But they started a little slow, but they ended up really picking up in the second half, and especially in that fourth quarter. And the Dolphins picked up a win, which I predicted, but I said in last episode that it was much more of an anti-Patriots thing than me being a pro-Dolphins guy, and that is very true. Even though they picked up 20 points in a win, I just didn't like the way they looked. There's a lot of speed on that offense, but I don't think Tua is great at taking advantage of all that speed. The defense is well coached, but player-wise is a little shaky outside of maybe Javon Holland, who is a young stud. But overall, I think the Ravens pick up a win here.
Yeah, I think the Ravens will win too. If this game was in Miami and not Baltimore, I might actually flip. But I like the home team here. They just look like a more complete team. And the Dolphins are still, even though they got a victory, still figuring out how to use Tyreek Hill and all that speed they have on offense.
Yeah, in close matchups, home field advantage really does matter sometimes. Next up, we have the Falcons heading to Los Angeles to take on the Rams, who are trying to pick their season back up a little bit. And ironically, Cal and I not only have a split here, but we have our upset and lock, respectively, with me taking the Falcons as an upset and Callan taking the Rams as his lock.
Well, the Falcons just continue to choke away games, and the Rams are trying to get back on track. So I feel like the Rams, who are going to be the home team again, are gonna get back on track against a Falcons team that still just cannot figure out how to win, even with all the weapons that they have with Cordero Patterson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. They just cannot quite figure it out yet, and I think the Rams are desperate to get a win after looking very terrible on Thursday night opening football.
Yeah, they will need a lot to turn their season around. Even though they went against a great team, they did not look great, to say the least. But I think the Falcons played really well against the Saints, and maybe it was just a divisional game fluke. It's still kind of hard to tell with how early it is in the season. But if they can get Kyle Pitts involved a little more, and now that teams see that Kyle Pitts isn't the entirety of that offense, there's actually other things that they need to focus on, I think Kyle Pitts will naturally get a little less focused, therefore get a little more involved in the offense, which will very much help them out. And I know they're the road team, but I'm just feeling an upset on this one. Sometimes you're just feeling it, and I am just feeling it. So moving on to an NFC West matchup. Let my brain catch up to my mouth a little bit quick. We have the Seattle Seahawks going to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. And we have another split and another upset with me taking the 49ers and Callan's taking the Seahawks as his upset.
Yeah, the Seahawks, they really impressed me on Monday night with the way they were able to handle the Broncos. And Geno Smith actually looks like he might have finally figured it out. He looked very good, I felt like, on Monday night. And if they can get a decent quarterback to go along with that strong running game and then their reinforced offensive line, they might be able to really surprise some people. And the Trey Lance era did not get off to a great start. He threw a couple of bad interceptions, and he did not look very comfortable. I could see Seattle definitely picking up the upset here, especially with Trey Lance still figuring out the ropes.
I agree that Geno Smith looked good. I don't know if I'd give him quite very good, but he did much better than I expected him to do. Mm-hmm. But I think the Seahawks were very much pumped up for that game. It was their home opener. It was against Russell Wilson, who they had just gotten rid of. I think there was a lot of adrenaline for that game, and they still just barely eked out a win. And I do also agree, though, that the Trey Lance era did not get off to a great start. With the rain in that game, it's just hard to really tell if that was actually Trey Lance or if it was just the conditions getting in his head. So now they're going to be home, and they're going to be in much, much better weather. So I think we're going to get a better look at Trey Lance, and I think he'll play much, much better than he did against the Bears and pick up a win. So moving on, we got the Texans heading to Denver to take on the aforementioned Broncos, and we got another split here. Callan has the Broncos, but I took the Texans, and that's because I am now truly a firm believer in Davis Mills. I always thought I was, but after that game against the Colts, even though it ended in a tie, they probably should have gotten stomped from the first quarter to the last quarter. Mm-hmm. So the fact that Davis Mills was able to pick up 2 touchdowns, both to new tight end addition, O.J. Howard, so that was pretty cool to see for O.J. Howard. He's been bounced around a little bit his entire career. But I thought Davis Mills played great. Definitely made some mistakes, some sophomore mistakes, but overall he played really well against a good team and a good defense especially. So I got them picking up a win here because the Broncos, as we talked about in the preview or in the post review yesterday, Russell Wilson just does not look ready to kind of take on that offense yet. The arm talent was all there, and he'll of course improve as the season goes on. But for now, I think the Broncos will remain shaky and the Texans pick up a win.
I think the Broncos are actually just a better all-around team. I think that the Texans are kind of that ragtag group of guys that were brought together, a bunch of free agents and one-year deals, and the Broncos went out and got a franchise quarterback, and I think that franchise quarterback shows up and finally is able to put it together against a very weaker Texans team.
The Texans' defense is definitely weaker on paper, to say the least, but I thought they stepped up big time against the Colts and actually played pretty great overall, so we'll have to see what they're able to do against Russell Wilson. Next up, we have the NFC North matchup with the Bears heading to Green Bay to take on the Packers, and Cal and I agree on this one. We both have the Packers. Pretty simple for me. Aaron Rodgers just owns the Bears. It's how it works. I mean, I think the Bears are really looking up. They're trending in the right direction. And the Packers are kind of slowly going downhill considering some of the older superstars they have and losing Devontae Adams over the offseason. But Aaron Rodgers is still in Green Bay, and he owns the Bears.
Yeah, so this is a great bounce-back game for Green Bay, I feel like. If we lose this one, we might already be time to hit that panic button. But I feel like very confident that Green Bay is going to get it together. They're going to have a much better game plan. They don't have a superstar wide receiver that they have to not cover. So maybe that they'll just cover more of their regular wide receivers. And I think the defense will play much better overall, and the offense as well. And I really would like to see Christian Watson get back on track after that big drop.
Darnell Mooney with 160 yards and a touchdown? Is that what I'm hearing? Is that what
if
I'm
we can hold them under 200.
That's all that
under
matters.
200. We got a chance.
Okay, and then a quick one to talk about here with the Titans heading to Buffalo to take on the Bills in the first of two Monday Night Football games. Cal and I agree again. We both have the Bills in this one. And again, it's just a pretty simple pick for me. The Titans look sloppy, and the Bills are probably the best team in the NFL. I don't think it is a reach at all to say that at this point. So, easy pick here.
Yeah, the Bills really impressed me on Thursday night for opening week. I thought that it was going to be a much closer game than that was, and the Bills just really kind of blew out and manhandled the Rams. So I believe that with the way the Titans played, with their weak quarterback, I believe the Bills will feast on the Titans and get an easy W here for Buffalo.
Agree. And then the final game of Week 2 will be the second of two Monday night games with the Vikings heading to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. And we agree again, surprisingly. Not surprisingly, I have the Vikings, but Callan, why did you take the Vikings?
Well, because Justin Jefferson might be the best wide receiver in the NFL, and he sure proved it in Week 1. And that is a hell of a weapon to have. Kirk Cousins looked very solid. I was on there firsthand to see it. The defense looked solid and revamped from after a lackluster year last year, and that pass rush is just dominant with Za'Darius Smith and Danielle Hunter. Now, as long as those two can stay healthy, then I think that the Vikings defense is going to surprise people this year. But the key there is they got to stay healthy, and so far they are staying healthy, and I think they'll pick up a hard-fought victory in Philly on Monday night.
Yeah, I think we're going to, as the season goes on, see rotation in the Vikings defense, especially in that front three defensive linemen. We'll definitely always see some Harrison Phillips in there. Hopefully maybe even see some Ross Blacklock and stuff like that. But I think those guys are constantly going to be rotating, trying to find those three that really work together. And then that's also at the secondary position. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of rotation with our corners especially. We're going to be seeing some rotation between Cameron Bynum and Lewis Seen, the rookie this year. But as you mentioned, the pass rush, there's two positions on that defense beyond locked in, and it is Za'Darius Smith and Danielle Hunter at those outside linebacker positions, wreaking havoc on opposing quarterbacks. And Jalen Hurts is a fast man and a great runner. But I think that those guys are going to be able to contain him really well. And then, as you mentioned, Justin Jefferson is just a beast. I think we're going to end up seeing a lot more of some run game this game because of the Eagles' older defensive line. They're not quite as fast. I think the zone run is going to work really well against them. And I got a little bit of an extra prediction here. I think that Kevin O'Connell in that offense is going to get Jalen Reagor some reps. Not just punt returns, but get him some actual wide receiver
Reagor
reps.
revenge game.
And we are going to see a Jalen Reagor revenge touchdown in this game against the Eagles. I think they'll give him one big shot, and I think he will take advantage of it and hit him with a big...
Put it down on your parlay. A Jalen Reagor touchdown.
Put him a big play touchdown. One shot, one opportunity, and Jalen Reagor will hit it. So that's a little bit of my bonus prediction for this game. But that is our NFL Week 2 predictions. Now, I know you saw it as we went on and as we revealed this chart, that who we already picked for some of the games we didn't talk about, but I'll throw it back up right now just so you can look back and make sure and see those games that we didn't talk about. But until next week, don't forget
to eat the W.